Hello all, willkommen, bienvenue, whatever language, whatever country you are from. This is my shed. My name's James Smith and I run channel JR74, and this video I'm going to talk a little bit about tax. I've just done this year's tax return. Well, actually last year's tax return, because it's the money that I earned in the previous tax year. I've just done my self-assessment, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that as to what to look out for and what to do on it and stuff like this. It is quite a straightforward process, but yeah, it did need a few phone calls again. Anyway, I'm also going to talk about, the eBay world this week from this shed. Okay, what's sold. Also going to show you a little bit of a reorganization within the shed as well. I think you could probably see that behind me isn't as cluttered as what it usually is. Yep, I've had a little bit of a reshuffle within the shed. I do that probably about once every 6 months. I reckon it's before winter and after winter. But hey, we're still in August, so we're not going to say the W word again. So I'm going to basically do what I usually do with this in, on and gone. I'm going to mention some products that have sold quickly this week. Then I'm going to talk about a couple of things to do with eBay. I've already mentioned what I'm going to talk about. Okay, I'm going to do the tax. I'm going to do the reorganization of the shed. Then I'm going to show you a couple of other sales from the week that haven't taken a week. Okay, it's the quick ones first, the ones that have sold within a week. Okay, because that's the sort of stuff that people want to know about, what is selling well and quickly. Okay, and then I'll talk about a few more at the end. Anyway, let's get into it, shall we? All right, looking forward to this one. Back in the game after a little summer break. Super duper. Let's see. First one, football boots. Football's a hobby. You know I talk about hobbies and how important they are when reselling. These were a nice pair of Puma Kings football boots with moulded studs. When I got them, I was like, oh, yeah, they're nice. They are nice. And I managed to source them for £4, okay, which was an absolute steal. I'm really, really pleased with that. Anyway, put them on, and yeah, they went quite quickly. I took an offer of £18.60 on those. Could have been higher. But again, I sourced them at £4. So maybe if I'd sourced them at like £8 or £9, then maybe I would have waited for a bit longer to see if a higher offer came in. But I was quite happy with this one. £18.60, £13 3 pence back after postage and fees, which gave me in the end, so £13 3 pence. Take away the £4 that I spent on it, okay, gives me £9 and 3 pence profit, which is a markup of 225%. So that is well above my little target bracket that I've got, which is between 50 and 100 for those of you who are watching this for the first time. So yeah, pleased with those. That was a nice sale. There's 3 in all for the quick sales for this week. Next up, another cracking brand to look out for in terms of trousers, Meyer. Meyer. I think they're a German brand, and these sell very, very quickly each and every time I put them on. These were a nice pair of Meyer Oslo trousers, and they were like a burgundy red. The coloured trousers sell well. I keep saying this, like your navy, black, grey, beige, traditional trouser colours. Yeah, okay, you've got those. But then you've also got your pastel colours, you've got your reds, you've got your different blues to navy blue. These trousers sell very, very well. Very well. Much quicker than your traditional colours. So yeah, I want this channel to be educational. So if you come across a decent pair of coloured trousers that have got a decent brand on them, such as like Meyer, and I keep saying them, don't I, Marks and Spencer's, they'll sell, and they'll sell quite well. These I picked up for £4.50, okay, sold for £13.60, got £8.55 back after fees and postage taken off. £4 5 pence profit, 90% markup. Okay, because £4 5 pence is about 90% of £4.50. So yeah, okay, again, well within that bracket. And finally, I sold 4 of the same thing within a week for very little profit. But I was just seeing how they would go. I picked up 4 Nintendo Mario Kart steering wheels, the sort of like the ones that you can put the remote control into. I sold 2 for £6, 1 for £5, and then one offer came in at £4, and I just thought, yeah, just get them out. Okay, so they weren't going to go for much more than that from the research that I did on eBay. And yeah, so I was quite pleased with this. I suppose looking back, I should have held out because 2 sold at £6. Maybe I could have held out and had the other 2 selling at £6. But hey, yeah, so £4 spent on all of these in all. Totally, okay, the total 6 plus 6 plus 5 plus 4 is 21. Okay, but from that 21 quid, because postage was included in this. Okay, I didn't add it on or anything like that. So this one, after postage and fees taken off, I was left with £4.65 after that postage was taken off and the fees as well, which left me with 65 pence profit, which is 16%. So what's that? That is 4 pence per wheel. Look, yeah, so what I take away from that is if you come across a bundle, all right, these steering wheels, if they're in the bundle, will sell for between £4 and £6. So that should help you price up the bundle. If you like, look at how much the consoles cost, look at how much the power cables cost, look at how much the, what do you call them, the bars that you put on top of the telly, okay, which like sees the remotes and also the remotes as well. So yeah, the accessories. I did a video on what sells well. 10 things that sell well, and one of the things that I did in that video was an accessory for Xboxes or Sega PlayStations and Nintendo Wii's. The accessories, which I classified this as one of them, do sell really well. But these, yeah, okay, they'll sell quickly, but don't expect a huge mountain of profit. Maybe though it could get some new eyes to your store, which is what you want. Okay, so it's not all about profit. I keep saying that. Okay then, let's talk the T word, shall we? The T word being not a cup of tea, but tax. I can remember a few years back that I had when I first had to do this, I was looking on YouTube for like supporting videos, and there wasn't really that many around. And I think that's because there are just so many different situations that you find yourself in when paying tax. The first thing I'd like to do actually is just put the disclaimer in. I have sat absolutely no accountancy exams. I am not a qualified financial advisor. I'm merely just telling you what I had to do to claim my tax. Declare. Claim is... Let's go totally opposite, shall we? Declare my tax to the Inland Revenue here in the UK. Right, yeah, this video is just basically for UK tax paying. All right, if you're watching this video in another country, you're going to have to basically have a look at whatever your country does in terms of its taxation purposes. I mean, look, you've got to pay tax. You know, the way that I see it is something that you've got to do. How do you think roads, hospitals, schools come about? You know, everybody's got to do their bit. Yeah, things are changing. I've said this in previous videos as well. We are moving from the traditional model of the one single income and you being taxed at that income to a society where it's quite common for a number of people to have multiple streams of income. And governments have got to adapt to this and have got to be flexible. I suppose the UK has been to an extent. But anyway, let's see how I'll get on, shall we? Let's just listen on. So now that I've got that disclaimer out the way, I'm going to talk a little bit about allowances now. You've got to understand this before you even start to think about paying tax or anything like that, or if it is something that is on your mind. And basically, look, if you start doing this, if you start selling stuff online through an eBay shop, and if you don't think about tax, then what are you doing? Of course you've got to think about tax. Of course you've got to consider it. And it can be quite a daunting thing because you just don't want to get it wrong. because, you know, you don't want the Inland Revenue to think that you're evading tax, because you might get into trouble. So, yeah, I can understand why some people are quite about tax. Some people just get an accountant virtually straight away. After going through this process a couple of times, I am considering now getting one of those online tax, was it Intuit, QuickBooks, stuff like this, to actually assist you with your tax. I've had a look, they're about $10 a month. And I think if it gives you a bit more assistance along the lines, giving you advice on how much tax you're going to be paying, then, you know, maybe that is something to look at if my business begins to grow. At the moment, I'm perfectly happy and, you know, competent enough to give the proper figures. Anyway, so if your eBay earnings, okay, so everything that you have earned, all of your profits from eBay, you've done your accounting, you've had a look at the eBay financial report that's downloaded at the end of each month, you've taken off your costs, you've worked out what profits you're left with at the end of each month, you've added those all up, okay, and you've got a final year's total, okay, from April to April. If that year's total is below £1,000, you don't have to do anything. That is what it is like at present. I say April to April. The claim that I have just made, okay, or the self-assessment that I have just done, has been from my earnings from April 2024 till April 2025. That is the one that I have just done, okay? So I've been through the year, all right, I've got my figure. Now I can begin to assess that figure and make present my case to the Inland Revenue for how much money I've made from eBay. All right. Now, they are thinking of changing this. There are things in the pipeline. I don't believe this has happened yet, okay, but they are thinking of doing this, of changing it to £3,000 that you could earn before you've got to pay tax on internet related things such as YouTube and eBay, okay, but you have to declare it even if you've only made 2p. All right, now that sort of like ties in with what's going on at the moment. Over the past, I think it was this January just gone, eBay are now by law required to report to the government every single business account that exists. Okay, so because they've done that, to actually now say that it's got to be £3,000, but you've got to tell us, the government will be able to link then the eBay with you actually telling them. So yeah, that does make sense in a way. But hey, if they do raise it to £3,000, that will be nice. All right, that's a bit more money in my pocket. So yeah, at the end of the day, I'm happy with that. But presently, as it stands, if you make less than £1,000, you don't have to do anything. I'm hoping that's not too confusing because I'm talking about future things as well. But keep your eye out for that one. It is worth keeping your eye out for, obviously. So what do you actually need in your hands before you actually make your self-assessment? Okay, your tax self-assessment. Right, if you're in my situation where you've got a job and this is a side hustle, okay, you will need your P60 from your job. All right, now my job, as I say, I'm a teacher, they usually come out end of April, early May. Okay, so you've got until about October. Okay, so you've got until the April to the October to actually make the self-assessment, and then to pay it, you've got until the January. Okay, so yeah, there's quite a bit of time to actually make that assessment. But if you're in a situation where all of your earnings come from eBay, then have your profit number there. Okay, you're not going to have a P60 or anything like that because you're self-employed. But if you're in my position where you've got a job with an eBay as a side hustle, you will need your P60. Okay. What you will also need is to open up a government gateway account. Okay, you will need one of those. And when you get one of those, you will then see that you will see all of the tax that you've paid, okay, from your main job, okay, again, my main job is a teacher, so everything that I've paid as a teacher, I will be able to see on that gateway. Okay, so I've never really done that before, so it's quite interesting to see. I was like, oh crikey, yeah, when I first did it. You will see it's just lots of boxes, okay, lots of different sections that you can go to. You will see that one of those boxes is called self-assessment. Okay, if you click on that box, that is where you will have to fill in your self-assessment. Okay, now you have got to let the Inland Revenue know that you intend to do this. I had to do that through a phone call. I had to say, because it wasn't working. I was clicking on the box, but I couldn't get up the information that I was expecting to see, because I watched a few videos on making self-assessment declarations and stuff like that. So I called the Inland Revenue, okay, I called the helpline, and we eventually got round to the fact that I need to have my self-assessment box sort of like released to let me make some self-assessment claims, okay, also just fill in some self-assessment forms. All right, so yeah, that's what you will probably need to do if you've never done this before. If you were in a position that I was in, where for years I'd just done a PAYE, a pay-as-you-earn system, okay, they were not expecting me to make any sort of self-assessment. Okay, so my self-assessment wasn't even activated. Your self-assessment has to be activated. Okay, so that's probably the first thing that you're going to have to do. And after making the phone call, that can take about 3 days to happen. All right, so yeah, be aware of that. Right, so if you get that far, you are then given, you can then go into it, you can click on make a, self-assessment, and you were given something called a UTR number. Now, I should think, look, hey, I'm making a bit of a stab in the dark here. UTR stands for Unique Tax Reference. I'm thinking that's what it means. I can't be absolutely sure. As I said, I'm not a qualified accountant. But anyway, this reference number is important. And it's one that you will need to fill in quite regularly throughout your self-assessment. Whenever it asks you for your UTR number, just put it in along with your name. All right, that's one bit of advice that I will give you. So yeah, it should be in the top. For me, it was in the top right-hand corner of the screen. Okay, but have a look for your UTR number. It will be there. All right, so you will need that. Okay, I would suggest, because this is quite, there's quite a few pages. I think that there's about 14 pages in all that you have to go through. Just have a look through and just see what you're being asked, okay? But really the first thing that you've got to check for is that you have filled in the employment page properly, okay? And that's where you've got to give the information for your main job, okay? So yeah, it's an employment page. I have put down complete an employment page for each employment or directorship. Okay, so this is your main job. If you watch on, you'll see why this is important. Okay, and this is why you need your P60, because in this section you have to put in how much money you earned from your main job, how much tax you paid from your main job, and also what your payroll number or what your tax reference number is. What do we say that? Yeah, PAYE tax reference. All right, you that will be on your P60. You need to put that information in so that the Inland Revenue know how much money you made from your main job. I know that they know already, okay? I know that. But if in terms of making a self-assessment as well, they need to know exactly how much money you made from your main job so they can work out how much, when you actually put in the extra bit, which is how much money you made from eBay, YouTube, whatever it is that you're doing, they can then work out how much tax you've actually paid before and deduct that. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, but they should know that anyway. You've just got to declare it. Okay, it is you making a declaration. So make sure that the numbers that you declare are exactly the same as the numbers that are on your P60. That's really, really important. Okay, so after you've done that, you've then got to put in the figures from your eBay shop, okay, the money that you've made online. Now, as I said a couple of minutes ago, I really would strongly suggest that you just have a look through each and every page what you're being asked to do. You'll see at the bottom it goes forward, you can go back, it goes forward, and then at the end it will then give you like a sheet that you can check everything on. You can still go back from that, okay, and it will make you have the chance to make sure that everything is correct before you actually tap the button that actually makes the self-assessment, okay, that actually finalizes it. All right, so that there's a lot of stages where you can go back and you can change things and stuff like that. Please don't feel that it's once you've typed something in, that's it. No, there's loads of opportunities where you can change things. Anyway, there is a section which is basically the self-employment section. And again, you'll have to put in your UTR number. I just made an electronic. I got the old double screen on my computer, so I had like a Google Doc open with my UTR in it, and I copied and pasted it so that there was no chance of me getting that number wrong. That's another good tip as well. Yeah, and in this self-employment section, you're given the opportunity to name your company. In this sense, it would be Channel JR74 for me. Your name, okay, so I'm putting in James Smith, and as I said, your UTR, and as well the amount of money that you made. Now, I have mentioned the fact that there is £1,000 tax allowance where you don't have to pay tax on £1,000 of the earnings. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, right, so if I'm making the claim or if I'm filling in my assessment, God, I'm still using the word claim. You're doing a self-assessment. Okay, so if you were filling in the paperwork for the self-assessment, okay, then you do need to include the whole figure. Don't take £1,000 off it, okay? Include the whole figure. And then you will see a couple of boxes below that. It says, is there a tax allowance for this? And that's where you put in the £1,000. Now, you might be thinking to yourself again, oh, come on, they should know it. They should take the £1,000 off at the end. You know, I shouldn't have to tell them. Yeah, unfortunately, there's so many different types of allowances that you can have. And this is why accountants are worth their weight in gold. If this does become more complex for me, they will know everything about the sort of allowances that you can have. But in this case for me, and I'm hoping that, you know, there's quite a few people watching this video that fall into the same sort of category that I do, where you've got a main income coming in and an eBay income. There's no other tax allowances that I have to claim for. So it's that £1,000 one is the only one that relates to me. So I can get the full allowance there. So I put in the £1,000 and then that generates a load of tick boxes underneath. Read them. Okay, see if any of them apply to you. They are very, very matter-of-fact questions. And usually if you don't understand what the hell they're going on about, usually the answer is no. Okay. You know, if it's really, really putting you in a total spin, call them, okay? And they will be able to help. The call line, it took me about 40 minutes to get through to it, okay? Because there was a couple of things that I needed to check this year, okay? But yeah, it was about a 40-minute wait time, but it's worth it, because what it does, once you got everything sorted, it gives you total peace of mind. But that's the part where you sort out the £1,000 allowance. Okay, you don't take the £1,000 off the number that you are declaring. I hope that makes sense. You will also see that there's something referring to Group 2 National Insurance and voluntary contributions and all of this. Right. From my understanding of this, and this is what I've done for the past couple of years, is that it's if your earnings are below round about £6,700 from your online earnings, from your eBay shop, you don't have to pay the national insurance contribution. It is voluntary, but I don't like that word voluntary. The last couple of years, I've tried to pay it and it doesn't let me, because of the earnings number. And yeah, I'm not quite sure about that. So I will be phoning them and asking. But basically, it is a number at round about six. You'll see the number there. It's round about £6,700. And if your earnings are below that, you don't have to pay it. If they're above that, you do have to pay it. But again, I'm declaring that I'm not an accountant. This isn't financial advice. If in doubt, please call the Inland Revenue and they will be able to help you. But I'm just basically stating the way that I've done it. So after going through all of that, it will give you a breakdown at the end of all of it. And this is where my confidence grows, because the numbers that are on that breakdown are the numbers that I want them to have. Okay, they have got on this breakdown the amount of money that I've earned from my main job, the amount of tax I've paid from my main job, okay, the amount of money that I have earned from my eBay store, okay, minus the allowance. Okay, so they've taken that £1,000 off, and then a final figure has been created. And then they've got all the tax brackets, like above 50,000, below 50,000. They have basically worked out how much of my whole earnings are liable for tax. Okay, they've basically looked at how much tax I've paid already, okay, from my main job, and then there is a gap there, okay, and that gap is what I have to pay. Okay, so it's obvious. So if there was no eBay earnings, okay, I would be at zero. I don't have to pay any tax because I've done it through PAYE. But because I've added my eBay earnings, then yeah, there is a figure there, okay, that there is a slight shortfall, and that's the tax that you have to pay. So have it in your mind, if that figure is round about, to me, from my calculations, I was expecting that figure to be round about 25% of the declaration that I was making, okay, and it was. So it wasn't smack on, but it's sort of like around about that figure, okay, and I could see on that breakdown how it had been justified. Okay, it was quite, you do look at that and you think, all right, yeah, oh, right, okay, that's the figure, thank God, we've got somewhere, yeah, so that is the figure that I had to pay in the end. It does take a bit of time to get there. If it's your first time of doing it, it might be a few phone calls that are needed to actually, help you to become confident in this whole process. I would strongly recommend that you print everything out. It does give you the option to do that, so that when you got to do it next year, you can look back at what sections you made the declarations against. So yeah, I've got, by the side of my desk, I've got little drawers that are marked with each financial year, and all the paperwork goes into those drawers. You are in effect running a business, okay? This isn't just like, oh, a couple of things selling here and there. It's a business that you're running. So, take it seriously. Run it as a business. That is, and you're learning new things. That is half of the fun. Yeah. In terms of, yeah, this is good. This is making me money. I want to grow this. I want to make this even better. Right. That's all I'm going to say on the tax issue. I'm just basically taking you through what I went through. And if you actually go through it yourself, because what I didn't want to do really was have any like screenshots and me taking you through exactly what to fill in, because that is me getting above my station. Okay, I'm not qualified enough to be able to do that. That would be me basically saying, well, I'm not a qualified accountant, but this is how you do it. I'm not comfortable with that. I would say to you, have a look through it. You can move through the pages quite easily, checking, rechecking what you've done. Okay, and I said the phone call as well can easily be made. So yeah, that's the tax. Right. let's have a look around the shed, shall we? And let's see what I've done. Right, so here we go, Smithy's shed. There we are, made for me by the lovely Mrs. S. Okay, she's got one of those cricket machines. My God, she signs everything. We've even got the word light switch written underneath the light switches. No, we haven't really. Right, so let's have a look, shall we? Now, this is my first section where I'm keeping all of my trainers. Yeah, so I'll just move that back there. So it goes down quite a long way. And what I've done, you can see what I've done. I got a piece of big board and cut loads of pieces out of the board. And that just allows me to store the trainers. Yeah, it's quite visual. I find using this way I can quite easily see which trainers are which. I could put some numbers down the side there, couldn't I, so that I could do the SKU system, the SKU system, but I usually find I can get my hands to them pretty quickly. Okay, right, then we've got at the top there's some boxes with packaging in. All right, and then we move into the stuff that's been listed but not sold yet. Okay, yeah, I know it says ABC, and then we go on to EG. You're probably thinking to yourself, well, where's D? I'll show you where D is in a minute. It is a little bit different. And then I know, oh, there's the tripod that I've just used for this video. I'll just move that. And then what we've got here is stuff that needs to be listed. That box there and all of that needs listing. Yeah, that's my death pile. I've really got to sort this out. Up the top there are my trousers. They've already been listed. And on the end there is the start of my death pile. All right. Now, you can see as well that my desk is a lot tidier, a lot cleaner. So I'm really pleased with that. And there's the hot seat where I do my videos from. All right. And then moving around here, I've got some more boxes there to store things. And then over here, this section here is stuff that I think is on the eBay store, but can't be sure. Yeah. So I'm going to have to check all of that. Up the top there is stuff that needs listing, and here is board games that need listing. All right. And at the bottom there is a few more boxes full of stuff that I have on the shop. All right. So box D is that one right at the end there. Okay. So, and look, there's the notes that I make for each video as well. All right. So there is a bit of preparation that goes into it. Then I've got like a freezer, second freezer, but on the top there, it makes a nice packing station. So I do a lot of packing there as well. And then there's a couple of drawers, a couple of things there. And then the old box of leads. That's got absolutely nothing to do with eBay, but everybody's got a box of leads, haven't they? That's where mine is. There we go. All right. Little sign there made by my little one when he was in primary school. Well, actually, he's not a little one anymore. He's 18. But Taylor is Welsh for family. And he drew that and he put us all on there. Bless him. Okay, so that is very sentimental. Very sentimental. Okay, all looking good. All right, so that's the shed. All right, that's the shed. I am actually quite conscious of the fact that you might have watched all that stuff on tax and be absolutely none the wiser. Oh, God. And this is probably why I struggled. When I first did it, it was such a struggle to find something that would actually help me. It is something that you've got to do. It's something that you've got to go through. And it's something because each and everybody's situation is different. You just got to basically become aware of what fits you. But what I would say is don't be scared. Don't be frightened. Because at the end, you get that page where you've actually got like a breakdown of all the figures that you've put in. And you know in your mind whether that's right or not. And you know in your mind whether that is what you're expecting the inland revenue to see. Or what you want the inland revenue to see. And in my case, it had all of my earnings on there from my main job and all of my earnings on there from my eBay And as well, it took into account any tax allowances that I had. So I was quite happy with making that declaration. All right. Right. Now, let's talk about what else has sold this week, shall we? What else have I sold this week that didn't sell within the week, but has been sold and I want you to know about? So, yeah, let's go with it, shall we? Right. First up was a wheelchair. Now, this was a wheelchair that was in the family, and the person that was using the wheelchair has got a new wheelchair. So I thought to myself, right, let's see how wheelchairs do, shall we? And these are big, heavy things. I had absolutely no intention whatsoever of putting this into the postal system. I put it on as collection only. All right, it was still in good condition. I put like the manufacturer's name on it. I took a load of photos around it. And in the end, it went for £35. Somebody made a contact with me. I think I had it on for about 2 weeks. And I live in South Wales, and somebody came from Western-super-Mare to pick it up. If you think about it, a wheelchair, especially if somebody is having mobility issues, is a very, very sought after thing. And they are expensive if you buy them brand new. So this one sold pretty quickly, and it's certainly something that, yeah, it is a large thing to store, but it was quite an interesting little experiment just to see how well it did and how long it took and what sort of price I got for it. And yeah, I was quite pleased with the way it went. So yeah, wheelchair. I'm not going to put any sort of like percentage markups or anything like that on it, but £35 was what it went for. Next up, I do say I consider coffee drinking to be a hobby, and any coffee related products do sell quite well. And these were a nice set of ACF made in Italy. Well, I would call them espresso cups and cappuccino cups as well. Now, that's basically a big and a little cup. Now, I had a message about this, and the person who sent the message wanted to know the capacity in millilitres of each cup. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, oh, crap, come on, it's an espresso cup. It's a cappuccino cup. It's a cup. You should know how much. No, all right. This is an opportunity for me to make a contact with a buyer, give him the information that he wanted, okay, which was quite easy to do. Only took me a couple of minutes. Just got a measuring jug and just measured it. But also it gave me the ability to send him an offer. Basically say, look, really nice cups. You won't be disappointed with them. Here's a cheeky little offer for you. You know, what do you say? And also, I answered his question as well. Answer the question first before you make the offer, all right? Because that's the information that they want. But normally you'll find, oh, right, yeah, that's what I want. Oh, there's an offer there. Oh, crap, yeah, I'll have those. That's the way, okay? That's the way. So if somebody does ask you a question, don't get frustrated by it, all right? I know I've asked questions in the past where it's quite obvious that when I bought things off eBay, and it's quite obvious that the person on the other end was quite frustrated by this question. But to me, it's something that needs to be asked. And yeah, maybe I could now in the future put the actual capacity of the coffee cup or the tea cup that I'm putting on there. Okay, and don't just assume that people will know. So yeah, that's a lesson for the future, isn't it? But yeah, this was a nice sale. Oh, the numbers. Crockett, I nearly stopped it then without actually telling you the numbers. £4 I paid for these 4 cups. They were £1 each. £18.60 I sold them for. £12.16 back after postage and fees. £8.16 profit. 204% markup. Nice. Next up was an Under Armour hoodie. I paid £4 for this. Sold it for £15.60. It was a fleece hoodie. So yeah, autumn's coming. People beginning to buy warmer clothing. £9.97 back after fees and postage. £5.97 profit, 141%. Have that. Next up, another decent brand, especially in the footwear world, is Clarks. And these were a pair of Clarks unstructured sandals. They were brand new. They had hardly been worn. And that can easily be seen on the photographs, especially on the photographs of these soles. Okay, the underside of the shoe, the part of the shoe that makes contact with the floor, because there was hardly any marks or scratches on these. So you know, I have the right then to put into the title hardly worn, and that's what I did. £5 I paid for these, and I sold them for £20.60. Clark's shoes get a lot of views. Okay, they have really, over the years, they have made themselves into a highly trusted brand. I mean, a brand new pair of Clark shoes now, you're talking, you know, quite a pretty penny. And these, really, they pay £20.60 for these sandals. I would say in the shops, these sandals would be about 50 quid, roughly. £11.79 back after fees, £6.79 profit, 135%. Nice. Next up, another strong brand, Fred Perry. This was a nice Fred Perry shirt, just a short sleeve shirt, one that you can wear for a nice meal or down the pub. You know, nice smart shirt to be worn. It had a lot of views as soon as I put it on. I bought it for £4, sold it for £11.60. £6.18 back after fees, £2.18 profit, 54%. So this one fell into that target bracket, maybe only just, but yeah, so really for shirts, paid £4 for it. If I'm going to make an offer in my titles that I do, then if somebody offers this sort of offer, which is only just like a couple of quid less than what I'm putting it on for, I take it. Get it gone. Okay, get it out. It's over a 50% profit. Take that money, reinvest it in something else. You're not going to make totally banging profits on each and every product that you sell. And last but not least, this was not a banging. It was a profit. It was a profit. But hey, again, I want this to be educational. And in this sense, I overpaid for these. These were a pair of shorts that I paid £4.80 for. They were a pair of Nike Tiempo shorts, white ones. Took an offer of £9.60. They've been on for quite a bit of time as well. £5.14 back after fees and postage. 34p profit. 7% markup. To me, shorts sell, but you've got to buy them in bulk. I would say a pair of shorts like this, really, from what I've just shown you there, that's typical of what people are prepared to pay for a pair of shorts like this. I paid £4.80 for them. Really and truly, it should be closer to £3. Okay, £3-4. Even £4.80 is overspending a little bit. So again, I want this to be educational. You now know that a pair of shorts like the ones that you've just seen, £4 really is the limit that you should be paying for them. Right, so that's that. I've had a go at doing the old tax. Yeah, as I said, I could have done it by actually doing screens of me filling it in, but I don't. That's personal to me. I don't want you to see my data, and I haven't got the skills yet to actually black out what I'm putting in. But really, I'm hoping that this video will help you in conjunction with actually going through the gateway yourself and actually going through the self-assessment form yourself. If you do that, then this video becomes far more understandable. If you're watching this before actually looking through the form, please go and look at the form now, go through it, and then come back and watch the video again. And I'm hoping that you understand it a little bit more. But really, as I said, don't be frightened about putting in the numbers, because at the end, there is a facility before you actually make the declaration where you can actually check everything, and you can go back and change numbers as well. And it does make it very, very clear. It says, like, it will say at the top, you're 95% done, but you haven't made the declaration yet. If you click this button, you will have made the declaration. Okay, so there's nothing that you can really do by mistake. Okay, read everything. Don't be scared. Don't be frightened, and just answer every single question honestly. Okay, but again, I've got to reiterate, I haven't sat one financial advice exam, and by looking at this video, you could probably tell that. Anyway, it's been a pleasure. Okay, I'll be releasing this on the Sunday night. At the moment, it's Saturday afternoon. I'm just going to go in now and see how the football scores are coming through. Couple of additions. You know, I am reinvesting in the channel. I am reinvesting, and I have had a few speaker issues recently. So I've gone out and bought myself these. These are top notch. These are top of the end Rode microphones. This is the bit that I plug into my phone, and this is the bit that I have on my lapel, like that. So if I'm like outside now, especially in shops, I've now got something that I can talk into so that my voice is a little bit clearer. Yeah, these are good. But I think in this shed, the microphone that's on the... I record this on an iPhone, and the microphones on these are very, very good. So if you've got any sound issues, or if... look at the camera, Smithy. Look at the camera. Okay, if you've got any sound issues, let me know. All right, let me know. I know that I did a few videos outside recently, and there are a few sound issues with those, but hopefully that will now be sorted. Right, time for a brew. That's me done. All right, like, comment, subscribe. Join me on the journey. Here we go. All right, lovely. See you soon. Bye-bye.